2 days before the wedding, my mother-in-law dragged 15 boxes into my apartment. "These are my things. I'm moving in right after we sign the papers." My fiancé happily helped her carry everything. But on the morning of the wedding, he woke up alone in an empty apartment with a note that left him stunned. My dream wedding was just 48 hours away, but a sudden knock on the door, and a U-Haul outside, instantly turned my perfect future into a nightmare. The scent of roses and impending joy hung in the air, thick and sweet. My wedding dress, a cloud of ivory tulle and delicate lace, was suspended from the highest point of our vaulted ceiling. A silent, beautiful ghost presiding over the happy chaos. With only 48 hours until I married Liam, our small house was a whirlwind of last-minute preparations. Boxes of wedding favors were stacked in one corner. My meticulously organized seating chart was laid out on the dining table, and my maid of honor's ridiculously fluffy bridesmaid dress was draped over a chair. I was buzzing, a live wire of excitement and nerves. Every time I looked at that dress, my heart did a little flip-flop. This was it. The culmination of a year of planning, a lifetime of dreaming. Liam was out on a final crucial errand, picking up his custom-made cufflinks. It gave me a rare moment of peace in the eye of the storm. I sank onto the sofa, a contented sigh escaping my lips as I surveyed our home. Our home, the one we'd saved for, painted together and filled with a future. In 2 days, this would be our marital home. It felt sacred. That's when the doorbell rang. I smiled, assuming it was the flower delivery for the Beniers. I swung the door open, my cheerful hello dying on my lips. It wasn't a florist. It was my future mother-in-law, Brenda, standing on my doorstep with a grimly determined expression. Behind her, parked at a jaunty, curb-blocking angle, was a U-Haul rental van. My smile faltered. "Brenda? Hi. What's all this?" She didn't answer. Instead, she grunted and hefted a large, shabily taped cardboard box from the van's ramp. She bypassed me completely, her sensible shoes squeaking on our hardwood floor as she marched into my pristine living room and dropped the box with a floor-shaking thud right next to the stacked wedding favors. The box was crudely marked kitchen stuff in a thick black Sharpie. I stared, utterly bewildered. "Brenda, what are you doing?" I asked, my voice a little higher than I intended. "Just getting a head start, dear," she said, not even looking at me as she turned and marched back outside for another box. A head start on what was she bringing us? Gifts? Weird, unlabeled, and frankly dirty-looking gifts? I followed her back to the porch, my arms crossed. A head start on what, exactly? "We're a little busy, as you can see." She heaved another box into her arms, this one labeled, "bathroom junk." "Don't you worry your pretty little head about it. It'll all be sorted out soon enough." She pushed past me again, her shoulder bumping mine, and deposited the second box on top of the first. The tower of brown cardboard was already an eyesore, a monument to my mounting confusion and anxiety. She did this 4 more times, creating a wall of her belongings between my sofa and the dining room, moving with the relentless efficiency of a pack mule. The smell of mothballs and dust began to compete with the roses. My brain was short-circuiting. This couldn't be happening, not now. I finally planted my feet in the doorway, blocking her path. "Brenda, stop," I said, my voice firm now. The politeness was gone. "You need to tell me what is going on right now. What are these boxes?" She placed a hand on her hip, glaring at me as if I were a stubborn stain she was about to scrub out. She let out a long theatrical sigh. "Honestly, the drama. It's my things. Obviously, I sold the house. The sale closed this morning." My jaw went slack. She sold her house. The house she'd lived in for 30 years. The one Liam grew up in. He hadn't said a word about this. "You sold your house? Why didn't Liam tell me?" "Oh, I told him not to," she said with a dismissive wave of her hand. "No point in worrying you with the boring details before the big day." She tried to sidestep me, but I held my ground. "Boring details? Brenda, you sold your home. Where are you going to live?" The question hung in the air for a second, heavy and ominous. I felt a cold dread begin to creep up my spine as the answer began to dawn on me. No, it wasn't possible. She wouldn't. A slow, triumphant smirk spread across her face. It was the look of a chess player who had just said, "Checkmate." She leaned in close, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, that was meant to sound friendly but felt like a threat. Well, here, of course. She gestured around my living room and my dress at our life. It just makes sense. After the ceremony, I'm moving in. It'll be so much easier for me to help you two get started on the right foot. I felt the floor drop out from under me. The blood drained from my face, and the scent of roses suddenly seemed cloying and nauseating. I could only stare at her, speechless. Moving in. Moving in. The words echoed in the sudden ringing silence of my mind. She saw my horrified expression and patted my arm condescendingly. Don't look so shocked, dear. We're family now? My voice, when I finally found it, was a strangled whisper. No, absolutely not. I backed away from her, pulling my phone from my pocket with trembling hands. Liam and I never ever discuss this. You are not moving in here. I frantically scrolled to Liam's contact, my thumb shaking so badly I could barely press the call button. Brenda just chuckled, a low grating sound. Oh, sweetie, you call him. Go right ahead. The phone rang once, twice. Liam picked up, his voice cheerful. Hey babe. You won't believe the traffic. Got the cufflinks though. Everything okay? No, Liam, I choked out, tears welling in my eyes as I stared at the mountain of boxes that had invaded my home. Nothing is okay. Your mother is here. I took a shaky breath. She says she's moving in with us. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Then Liam's voice tight with disbelief. What? No. That's insane. Put her on the phone. I held the phone out to Brenda. My hand a lifeline to sanity. He wants to talk to you. Brenda took the phone, her smug expression never wavering. Hello, sweetie, she cooed. Yes, I'm here. I just brought a few things over. No, she's just being a bit dramatic. You know how brides can be. Yes, I understand. But we talked about this. She paused, listening, and then her eyes flicked to me, glittering with victory. Liam, darling, don't you remember our little chat last month? You promised me I would always have a place with you. A cold, heavy silence filled the room after Brenda hung up the phone. She handed it back to me without a word, her expression infuriatingly placid, as if she'd just confirmed a dinner reservation. You see, she said softly, turning back to the U-Haul. It's all been arranged. I stared at her back as she walked out, my mind a screaming void. You promised me. The words echoed, a venomous whisper that poisoned everything. Liam, my Liam, promised her. How? When? Why would he keep a secret of this magnitude from me 2 days before our wedding? The beautiful ivory dress hanging from the ceiling seemed to mock me now, a relic from a different, happier life that had ended just moments ago. Brenda returned, grunting under the weight of another box. This one leaking a trail of what looked like ancient potpourri. She shoved it into the kitchen, and I heard the clatter of our cupboards opening. My cupboards. Just finding a spot for my spice rack? She called out cheerily. Yours is so minimalist. I felt a surge of rage so potent it made me dizzy. This wasn't happening. I was not going to stand by while this woman dismantled my life before it had even officially begun. I marched into the kitchen. She had already cleared a shelf of my neatly organized jars of herbs and spices, shoving them to the back to make room for her grimy, mismatched collection of tins. Put them back, I said, my voice dangerously low. She didn't even turn around. Don't be silly, dear. There's plenty of room for both of us. We just need to be efficient. She started humming a tuneless, grating little melody as she continued to colonize my kitchen. I felt utterly powerless. Physically moving her things felt like escalating a war I wasn't prepared to fight. But letting her continue felt like surrender. Every minute that ticked by was another inch of my home, my future that she claimed as her own. By the time I heard Liam's car in the driveway, she had brought in a total of 15 boxes. They were a barricade in our living room. She had also unpacked a truly hideous floor lamp shaped like a flamenco dancer and plugged it in next to my favorite armchair. Its garish fringed shade cast a sickly yellow light over everything. The front door opened and Liam stepped inside, a hopeful smile on his face. Babe, I'm Hope. The smile vanished as he took in the scene. The mountain of boxes, the grotesque lamp, his mother wiping her hands on a dish rag she'd apparently brought with her, beaming at him from the kitchen doorway. And me standing ramrod straight by the sofa, my face pale and stained with tears, His eyes darted between us. Mom, what is all this? I was just getting settled, Brenda said, her voice dripping with manufactured sweetness. Your lovely bride was just helping me. I was not. I snapped, my eyes locked on Liam. I needed to see his face to read the truth before he had a chance to hide it. Liam, look at me. Did you promise your mother she could move in with us? He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous tic I knew all too well. He wouldn't meet my gaze. Babe, let's just all calm down for a second. There's obviously been a big misunderstanding, has there? I stepped towards him, my voice rising. Because your mother seems to think you made her a promise. A promise about living here in our house. A promise you failed to mention to your future wife. It wasn't like that. He insisted, finally looking at me, his eyes pleading. She called me last month. She was upset about the house. About being alone. I said something to make her feel better. I said she'd always have a home with us. I didn't think she meant literally. Not right now. Brenda let out a wounded gasp from the kitchen. Liam. You most certainly did. You said, and I quote, "Don't you worry, Mom, when the house sells, you can just come live with us. We'll make it work." You said it was the least you could do for your dear old mother. She took a step into the living room, clutching her chest dramatically, my heart hammered against my ribs. I looked at Liam, searching his face for a denial, for the outrage I felt for him, to turn to his mother and tell her she was lying, that she had twisted his words. But it wasn't there. Instead, I saw a flicker of guilt, of shame. He had said it. Maybe not with the intention she claimed, but he had said the words. He had opened the door, and she had driven a U-Haul straight through it. Liam, I whispered, the fight draining out of me, replaced by a hollow ache. Tell me she is wrong. He looked from my desperate face to his mother's expectant one. He was trapped, and I could see him calculating, trying to find the path of least resistance. He took a deep breath, the kind you take before delivering a blow. Look, she's my mother, he began, his voice taking on a placating tone that made my skin crawl. Her house is sold, she has nowhere else to go. We can't just throw her out on the street. The air left my lungs. He wasn't defending me. He wasn't defending us. He was making excuses for her. What are you saying? I asked, my voice barely audible. He took my hands. They were ice cold in his warm grip. I'm saying, maybe it wouldn't be so bad. Just for a little while. Just until she gets back on her feet. We can make it work. Make it work. I pulled my hands out of his as if I'd been burned. The words came out in a strangled whisper. Make what work, Liam? A 3-person marriage? Our honeymoon suite in the spare bedroom. My gaze swept over the cluttered living room, the fortress of cardboard, the hideous Flamco lamp casting its jaundiced glow over my beautiful wedding dress. It felt like a stage set for a tragedy. My entire life, the one we were supposed to build together, starting in 2 days, has been invaded, and you want me to make it work? Brenda sniffled loudly from the kitchen doorway. I'll be no trouble at all. I can do the cooking and cleaning. It'll be a great help to the newlyweds, she offered, her voice thick with false sincerity. She was framing herself as a gift, a built-in domestic servant, when what she really was a saboteur. We don't need help. I finally screamed, the sound tearing from my throat, raw and ragged. We need a life, our own life. I rounded on Liam, poking him in the chest with a trembling finger. This was the deal, Liam. You and me, we build a home, just us. We talked about this for years. We saved for this house so we wouldn't have to live with anyone else. Was that all a lie? Of course not, he said, backing away slightly. His eyes were wide with panic, darting between his weeping mother and his hysterical fiancé. He was a man caught in a bear trap, and he was trying to chew off the wrong leg. It's just temporary, babe. I promise. Just until she finds a little apartment or something. Finds an apartment. I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound that held no humor. She just sold her house, a fully paid-off house. Where did the money go, Liam? Why does she suddenly have nowhere to live? Did you even think to ask her that? That question seemed to hit him. He turned to Brenda, a flicker of confusion in his eyes. Yeah, Mom. What about the money from the sale? You should have plenty to get a new place. Brenda's face crumpled. Theatrically, of course. Fat tears rolled down her powdered cheeks. "Oh, Liam," she sobbed, dabbing at her eyes with the cuff of her sleeve. "You know how bad I am with finances after your father passed. Well, there were debts. So many hidden debts. I had to use most of it to pay them off. I have almost nothing left. I was too ashamed to tell you. It was a masterful performance. I could almost admire the sheer audacity of it if it wasn't destroying my life." Liam's face softened instantly, his brief moment of clarity dissolving into a puddle of filial guilt. "Oh, Mom, I'm so sorry, I didn't know." He shot me a look, a silent plea. "See, she's helpless. We have to do this." I didn't buy it for a second. My gut was screaming that this was a lie, a carefully constructed narrative designed to manipulate her son and trap me. As Brenda launched into a detailed, sob-filled story about imaginary creditors, I backed away, needing to put distance between myself and this toxic play. I bumped hard into one of the towers of boxes. It wobbled precariously. Liam and Brenda both shouted, "Careful!" in unison, as if the box contained the crown jewels instead of what was labeled old magazines' linens. Anger, pure and white-hot, flooded my veins. I shoved the box. It toppled over with a satisfying crash, spilling its contents onto the floor. Musty-smelling towels and yellowed copies of Good Housekeeping from 1998 spread across the hardwood. But something else slid out from the pile, a thin beige folder. It landed face up near my feet. Brenda gasped. "My personal papers." She shrieked, starting forward. But I was faster. I snatched it up. "What is this, Brenda?" I asked, flipping it open. More hidden debts. The first page was a copy of the closing statement from her house sale. I scanned it quickly. My eyes widened. There were no liens, no debts listed, just a final payout number with a lot of zeros after it. A number that could buy a very nice condo in cash. She hadn't just lied. She'd concocted an elaborate fantasy. But it was the document underneath that made my blood run cold. It was a rental application filled out in her handwriting for a one-bedroom apartment in a senior living community just 10 minutes away. I saw the date on the application. It was from 3 months ago. And then I saw the letter stapled to it. It was a rejection letter. It wasn't because of finances. It was because, according to the letter, she had failed the interview portion with the manager, noting an unwillingness to abide by community rules and disruptive behavior toward staff. She hadn't just been planning to move. She had tried to find somewhere else. Had been rejected for being the difficult person she was. And we weren't her first choice. We were her last resort. Her dumping ground. This whole performance, the sudden sale, the poverty, the helplessness. It was all a sham, a calculated, manipulative invasion because she had burned her other bridges. I looked up from the folder, my hands shaking, not with fear, but with a terrible, clarifying rage. I looked at Brenda, whose face had gone pale, her mask of victimhood shattered. Then I looked at Liam, my Liam, who was staring at the papers in my hand with dawning horror. He finally understood. I slowly and deliberately closed the folder, the click of the cardboard echoing in the silent room. I walked over to the dining table and placed it squarely on top of my seating chart. I turned back to face him, my expression as cold and hard as I could make it. "So," I said, my voice eerily calm, "it seems your mother isn't just a liar, she's a planner." I let that sink in before delivering the final blow. I looked him dead in the eye, my voice dropping to a steely whisper that cut through all the lies and manipulations. "You have 24 hours. Get her and every single one of these boxes out of my house. If she is still here by noon tomorrow, then you can have a long and happy life with her because I will not be here to marry you." The day after the ultimatum hung in the air like smoke from a battlefield. The silence that followed was absolute, broken only by Brenda's sharp, indignant gasp. Liam's face was a canvas of conflicting emotions, shock, guilt, and a dawning, terrifying realization that I was not bluffing. His eyes, which had always looked at me with adoration, now held a desperate panic. He looked from my stony expression to his mother, who had recovered. Enough to compose her features into a mask of wounded innocence. "Well, I never," she huffed, crossing her arms, "to be spoken to in such a way in my own son's home." "This is my home too," I shot back, my voice like ice. "And as of this moment, you are an uninvited guest. The clock is ticking." I didn't wait for a response. I turned on my heel, walked into our bedroom, and shut the door with a click that felt as final as a guillotine. My knees felt weak, and I leaned against the cool wood of the door, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. I had just detonated a bomb under my own life. 48 hours until my wedding, and I'd just given my fiancé a choice, me or his mother. For a terrifying second, I wondered if I had gone too far. What if he chose her? The thought was a physical blow knocking the air from my lungs. But then the image of that hideous Flamco lamp of her spice tins in my kitchen, of the leaf-filled rental application, solidified my resolve. This wasn't just about boxes. It was about respect. It was about the foundation of the life we were supposed to build. If that foundation was built on his inability to stand up to his mother, it was doomed to collapse anyway. I could hear their muffled voices through the door. At first, it was low murmuring. Then, it escalated. Liam's voice rose in frustration. Brenda's in a high-pitched, whining torrent of accusations and sob stories. I couldn't make out the words, but the melody was familiar. A symphony of guilt and manipulation. I'd heard her conduct on a smaller scale for years. I sank onto the edge of our bed, the bed we were supposed to share, as husband and wife, and stared at the wall, feeling utterly alone. An hour passed, then two. The shouting finally subsided, replaced by a tense, heavy silence. Finally, there was a soft knock on the door. "Babe." Liam's voice was gentle, tentative. "Can I come in?" I took a deep breath. "Is she gone?" I asked, my own voice flat and devoid of emotion. There was a long pause. "No, she's resting in the guest room." She was very upset. Rage, fresh and hot, surged through me. He had put her to bed in the guest room where my parents were supposed to stay tomorrow night. "Get out, Liam," I said, the words sharp and final. "Honey, please just let me talk to you," he pleaded through the door. "We can figure this out." I told her it's not permanent. I told her she has to start looking for a place first thing next week. "Noon tomorrow, Liam," I repeated, my voice shaking with the effort of keeping it steady. That was the deal. "There is nothing to figure out." I heard him sigh, a long defeated sound, and then his footsteps receded down the hall. I locked the door, slid down to the floor, and for the first time since she arrived, I let myself cry. I cried for the joy she had stolen, for the man I thought I was marrying, and for the beautiful future that was crumbling into dust around me. I must have fallen asleep on the floor because I woke up to the pale light of dawn filtering through the blinds. My back ached and my eyes were swollen. For a blissful moment, I forgot why I was there, thinking it was just pre-wedding jitters. Then the reality crashed back down. I unlocked the door and crept out into the living room. It was eerily quiet, but the boxes were still there, all 15 of them. The Flamco lamp stood sentinel, its fringed shade looking even more absurd in the morning light. A cold knot of dread tightened in my stomach. He hadn't done it. He hadn't gotten rid of her. I walked into the kitchen. On the counter was a single mug of coffee, cold, and a note written in Liam's familiar scroll. "Gone to talk to my uncle. He might have a room for her. Please don't do anything drastic. I love you. We will fix this." Underneath his signature, in a completely different spidery handwriting, was a postscript. "P.S. We are out of milk. Could you pick some up, Brenda?" The audacity was breathtaking. She was still here somewhere in my house, and she was leaving me a grocery list. I crumpled the note in my fist. No, this was not going to be my life. My maid of honor, Chloe, was supposed to arrive at 10 a.m. to help with the final dress fitting and to collect the favors. My parents were driving in from out of state and would be here around 11. My deadline for Liam was noon. The house was about to be filled with the people I loved most, the people who were coming to celebrate my wedding, a wedding that at this rate was not going to happen. The next few hours passed in a blur of numb activity. I called the caterer to confirm the final head count. I called the florist to confirm the delivery time for the bouquets. I went through the motions of a bride-to-be, my voice a hollow imitation of excitement. With every call, I felt more and more detached, like I was watching a movie of someone else's wedding falling apart. Chloe arrived right at 10, her arms full of garment bags and a box of pastries. Her cheerful smile faltered the second she stepped inside and saw the mountain of boxes. "Oh my God," she breathed, her eyes wide. "Did you guys get robbed? But the burglars were considerate enough to pack for you." I gave a weak, watery smile. "Worse," Brenda happened. I gave her the condensed version. my voice cracking as I got to the ultimatum. Chloe's expression shifted from confusion to righteous fury. Are you kidding me? He let her sleep here? She dropped everything on the nearest clear surface. Unacceptable. Absolutely not. She was a whirlwind of action, a stark contrast to my frozen despair. She put on a pot of coffee and started making calls. Who's his best man? Mark. I'm calling Mark. This is a groom problem. He needs his groomsmen to handle it. She was in the middle of leaving Mark a fiery voicemail when my parents' car pulled into the driveway. My stomach plummeted. I wasn't ready to face them, to tell them their daughter's wedding was hanging by a thread. My dad, a man of few words but deep kindness, took one look at my face and the state of my living room and simply wrapped me in a huge hug. My mom, however, was a different story. What in heaven's name is all this junk? She demanded, nudging a box with her toe. It looks like a hoarder's den in here. Just then, the guest room door creaked open. Brenda emerged, wrapped in one of my plush white bathrobes, her hair askew. She blinked in the light, surveying the assembled crowd with a sleepy proprietary air. Oh, she said, a small smug smile playing on her lips. Company? No one told me. She looked directly at my mother, her smile widening into a saccharine grin. You must be the other mother. It's so lovely to finally meet you. I'm Brenda. Welcome to our home. My mother's perfectly lipstick mouth fell open. She looked from Brenda draped in my bathrobe to me, standing frozen in my own living room, and then at the mountain of boxes. The words, our home, seemed to hang in the air, thick and poisonous. My dad's comforting arm tightened around my shoulders, his silence a testament to his own simmering rage. Our home, my mother repeated, her voice deceptively sweet, a tone I knew meant she was about to go nuclear. I believe this is my daughter's home. And who exactly are you? Before Brenda could launch into another one of her manipulative speeches, Chloe stepped forward, phone still in her hand. She's the reason the wedding's off, she announced with breezy finality, as if she were commenting on the weather. The effect was instantaneous. Brenda palled. My mother gasped. My dad just looked at me, his eyes asking the question. I gave a single sharp nod. The lie was out, but it felt like the truest thing anyone had said in the last 24 hours. It's not off. A voice boomed from the doorway. We all turned. Liam stood there, his best man Mark and another groomsman, Dave, flanking him like reluctant bodyguards. Liam's face was haggarded, his suit for the rehearsal dinner slung over his arm, but his eyes were filled with a desperate newfound clarity. He completely ignored his mother and walked straight to me. It's not off, he repeated, his voice softer now, his hands finding mine. Unless you still want it to be. But I'm fixing this. I am so sorry. I was weak, and I was stupid, and I let her make me forget what was important. You are what's important, us. He turned to his mother, and for the first time I saw not a son placating his parent, but a man drawing a boundary. Mom, it's over. You are not moving in. You were never moving in. You lied to me. You lied to her. And you have almost destroyed the best thing that has ever happened to me. Brenda started to cry, the familiar crocodile tears welling up. Liam, sweetie, how can you say that? After everything I've done for you, enough, he said, his voice firm, unwavering. Mark and Dave are here to help you. They are going to load every single one of these boxes back into that U-Haul you conveniently left parked out front. My Uncle Mike is expecting you. He has a spare room you can stay in for 1 month and 1 month only. He's already got the number for a financial advisor who is going to help. You budget the money from the house sale and find your own apartment. This is not a negotiation. It was as if a different man was standing in front of me. The man I had fallen in love with, the one who was decisive and strong, had finally shown up. Brenda seemed to realize it too. Her tears dried up instantly, replaced by a venomous glare. So, that's it. You're just throwing your own mother out for her? She spat the word, gesturing at me with a trembling, accusatory finger. My dad stepped forward, gently but firmly, positioning himself between Brenda and me. You will not speak to my daughter that way in her own home, he said, his voice a low rumble. These gentlemen are here to help you with your things. I suggest you get dressed and accept their offer. Defeated, Brenda shot one last look of pure hatred at me before stalking back into the guest room, slamming the door behind her. Mark and Dave, looking profoundly uncomfortable but loyal, immediately started hefting boxes and carrying them out to the van. It was an incredible sight. The wall of cardboard that had felt so insurmountable was being dismantled piece by piece. Liam never left my side. He just stood there holding my hand, his thumbs stroking my knuckles, his eyes apologizing over and over. While the men worked, my mom and Chloe sprang into action. They threw open the windows, letting fresh air chase away the musty smell of Brenda's belongings. My mom found the hideous Flamco lamp, unplugged it, and without a word carried it out and placed it on the curb with a look of immense satisfaction. Chloe started rearranging my spice rack, putting everything back in its rightful place. They were reclaiming my home for me, and with every box that disappeared out the door, I felt myself breathing a little easier. An hour later it was done. All 15 boxes were back in the U-Haul. Brenda emerged from the guest room, dressed and stony-faced. She walked to the door without a word but paused on the threshold. She looked at Liam. "You'll regret this," she said, her voice dripping with malice. "No, Mom," Liam said, his voice filled with a sad finality. "I was regretting not doing it sooner." He closed the door on her, and the click echoed in the suddenly spacious, blessedly quiet living room. He turned to me, his face etched with remorse. "Can you forgive me?" he whispered. "I know I messed up. I let her get in my head, but seeing this house, our house, filled with her stuff, seeing your face, I woke up. I choose you. I will always, always choose you, and I will spend the rest of our lives making sure you know that." I looked around the room. My dad was giving Liam a nod of grudging approval. My mom and Chloe were beaming. My dress hung from the ceiling, no longer a mockery, but a promise again. I looked into Liam's eyes and I saw the man I loved, flawed and human, but willing to fight for us. The last 2 days had been a nightmare. But in a strange way, it had been a necessary one. We had faced our first great trial before we had even said our vows, and we had come out the other side. Stronger, more honest. A slow smile spread across my face. I reached up and cupped his cheek. "Okay," I said softly. "But she is not invited to the wedding tomorrow." Relief washed over his face, so profound it was like watching the sun rise. He pulled me into his arms, burying his face in my hair. "Deal," he murmured. "God, deal." The next day, as I stood opposite Liam in front of all our friends and family, the chaos of the past 48 hours felt like a distant dream. Our home was ours again, filled not with boxes and resentment, but with flowers and love. When the officiant asked if I took this man to be my husband, to have and to hold in good times, and in bad, I looked into Liam's eyes, and for the first time I truly understood what that meant. We had already faced the bad, and we had won. "I do," I said, my voice ringing with certainty. "I absolutely do."